Mao. 2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Welcome up. Let's Taylor.
Hi, everybody. Welcome into Dodger Heads presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Matthew Moreno. I'm still filling in for Jeff, and I'm joined today by Blake and Scott. Guys, how's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you. All right, let's just jump right into this one. It's going to be a bit of a divisive subject that we're having to touch on again. If you saw a video from earlier in the week, Blake and I discussed Carlos Correa and the Dodgers potentially. Does it make sense for them to try to, maybe pursue him with a short-term contract that the front office seems to favor? Now, today, we're discussing Trevor Bauer. And as a lot of their viewers know, the Dodgers face a decision by this Friday whether or not they're going to add him back to their 40-man roster. They could release him. They could potentially trade him, although I don't know how likely that scenario would be at this point. What we're really going to focus on is kind of the different reports that have come out since Bauer's suspension was reduced and he was reinstated effective immediately. Pretty much right after that, it came out. I believe Bob Nightingale was first to report that the Dodgers are planning on releasing Bauer. Shortly thereafter, John Heyman of the New York Post had a similar report, and his also included that there was some within the club. There were people in the Dodgers clubhouse that didn't want Bauer back with the team. Now, that's been followed up with Bill Shakin from the LA Times. He reported that the front office has been informed that there are players who would want Bauer back playing with them this season. So, Blake, I'll come to you first. What's kind of your read and your opinion of the different kind of stances that have come from these reported?
Yeah, I kind of originally thought they planned to release him and just move on. But as some of the reports have said, the clubhouse is split. It's just like in life, in the fan base, everyone's going to be split on everything. It's a tough decision to make for them, I'm sure. It should be them just releasing him and moving on. But if the majority of the players do want him back, then I think he'll be back, and they're going to kind of follow what the players say, because the fan base, they're not going to be happy either way. Half of them want him gone, half want him to stay. It's just kind of a no-win scenario, and they're in a tough spot with it.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think, we can even take this back even further to, a few weeks after Bauer was initially placed on administrative leave in July of 2021. About 3 weeks after that, it was reported that the majority of the Dodgers clubhouse didn't want him back. And I believe the phrasing was under any circumstances. Now, obviously, that was early on when, not necessarily a whole lot was known about the situation. And I think, Scott, I'll come to you with this one. The roster has also changed since 2021. You have some players who are still left from that team, but, we've seen this offseason, a lot of players from the roster have signed elsewhere. So do you think that's potentially a factor that, maybe some of those feelings from a couple years ago don't necessarily hold as much weight now?
Absolutely. The clubhouse dynamics will certainly change when a clubhouse leader like Justin Turner leaves. Cody Bellinger, core guys in the organization, when they leave, dynamics change, voices change. Those we'll never know. And from, the media perspective, what the actual pulse is. We don't know what these guys talk about. They're people. They understand it. They're not oblivious to it. They're so much more than what we see in the quotes that we get. So I would absolutely think that I'm about, and I forgot who talked about it on Twitter, tweeted it out, that they spoke with, guys in the Dodgers clubhouse, but I would absolutely think that there are guys, like a solid group of guys in the clubhouse, who want Trevor Bauer back, just for the fact that he's a competitive baseball player. He's a good player. And once things come out, the public eyes tend to shift a ton in this day and age. I'm with Blake. I thought they were going to initially release him right away, but the longer it tends to play out, I don't know if the front office is trying to move him or they're going to make a decision to reinstate him and keep him with the team.
I think another thing too that's important to note is there haven't been any players who have publicly come out and, on the record and said, hey, like, I do want Trevor Bauer back, or I don't want him back. And I think, I wouldn't necessarily expect them to, because it is sort of a lose-lose situation just because of how divisive this topic is. And I'm with you, Scott. I do think that the longer this kind of drags on, obviously the Dodgers, like I said, have until Friday to make their decision. The more I feel like Bauer may be kept around, and I wonder, and I am coming back to you, Scott, with this one. Do you think, because of like the luxury tax implications from the standpoint of they're pretty much it appears they're going to be paying Bauer no matter what, like we said, short of kind of a miraculous trade. Do you think that may factor into the front office's decision and saying, hey, we didn't want to cross over the luxury tax threshold. If we're going to, we may as well just keep him on the team?
This is it's a difficult subject to talk about, but I think absolutely sure. I think that aspect of it and how competitive they will be, more competitive. He is a piece, and let's not forget this. He's a valuable baseball player. He's a Cy Young winner. So, from a pure baseball standpoint, and where the NL West is, and teams around the league adding when the Dodgers, really can't with their CBT implications. Aside from all of of Bauer's situation, he does make them a better baseball team. Off the field, we don't know. So that remains to be seen. But if you've looked at polls, I know LA Times put one out. It was about, I think, like 51 or 52% keep Bauer. So that, just like Blake said, this fan base is incredibly split on the decision. It's a lose-lose. But in terms of from a pure talent standpoint, Bauer coming back, I definitely think that they're factoring that in, that he's another piece. And if they're willing to withstand that blow, then I think, yeah, absolutely. They're definitely considering keeping him.
Blake, how much do you think that, the kind of the starting pitching outlook and the luxury tax and all that is kind of playing a factor in what their ultimate decision may be?
I would hope it isn't, because I would just hope they do the right thing and just release them and move on. But it probably is. I mean, they're going to consider all sides to it, just how they work and what they're going to do. So I'm sure they're looking over their roster and seeing they need a starting pitcher, and it's probably just really tempting to keep them around.
Yeah, I agree. And all right, let's close with this one then. Blake, gut instinct, if you need to predict what the Dodgers will decide by Friday, do you think they keep Bauer or they release him? And we're ruling out a potential trade just because I don't necessarily see that happening. So let's just go between keeping him back, adding him to the 40-man roster, or releasing him on Friday. Which one do you think they go with?
I think I'm going to stick with they're going to release him, but it really wouldn't shock me if they end up keeping him, especially with Bauer's tweet joking about it. The reports that people don't want him back, he kind of said, alluded to that he's going to be back. I don't know if he actually has real info there, but he could just be trolling like he does all the time, but it wouldn't shock me if he's back.
All right, Scott, what's your pick?
I'm going to say they keep him. I'm going to say the more that comes out about, writers hinting that there's guys in the clubhouse that want him back, I'm not saying that'll pressure the front office to do anything, but the more that comes out, I think they end up keeping Trevor Bauer. I think he's a Dodger.
Yeah, I agree with Scott. Early on, I felt like there was no way he would be back, especially if, the initial reports were that players in the clubhouse didn't want Bauer back with them. But I agree that kind of the more time that passes and some of these reports that, there actually are some players who will want him on the team. And frankly, I think the luxury tax threshold is a factor in the Dodgers roster. This isn't going into the 2022 season where they had, a surplus of experience starting pitching. I think that is definitely an area of the team that needs to sort of be addressed. And, Bauer's a starting pitcher. So that's where things stand for now. Again, this was Blake and Scott joining me. And just another reminder to please subscribe to our YouTube channel and comment below. Let us know what you guys think the Dodgers will do, not necessarily what they should do, but what you think they will ultimately end up doing. All right, that's it for today. Thanks.